when you cut your family off, that's that. They don't exist. They do not exist. They are not a phone call away. They are not a drive down the road. They do not exist in a sense where it's like they're dead. What's up, everyone? I am Ollie Rose, for those of you that don't know, and let's just jump into today's topic, which is going no contact, not talking with your parents anymore. Growing up, I don't really remember too much bad stuff from my childhood. So from like 6, where my memories really start to formulate, up until I was like 11 or 12, I generally have pretty good memories. Those good memories also include like getting whooped and getting yelled at, but I do have like really good memories with my parents when we would go like camping or skiing or fishing. And so like all of those little bonding activities were always really good. I was called a smartass growing up a lot. It was actually one of my downfalls, was that I was just a big smart mouth and a smart ass towards my parents. But looking back on it, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was just wanting the why, and I wasn't wanting to like blindly follow. Even though I was taught you needed to be obedient and listen to everything that your parents said, I always asked why, and I wanted clarification, and it wasn't always because I didn't want to do it. It was just I needed that clarification. So I got whooped a lot for being a smart ass. I got whooped a lot for talking back. So now that I have kids and I can see them doing those similar things, it's an immediate need to cut the trigger. I am triggered the second I feel like one of my kids is being a smartass, and I have to immediately remind myself, like, you owe them a why. It's okay for kids to understand. It's okay for kids to need clarification, and it's a good thing for your kids to not blindly be obedient. And while this directly is not a reason that I cut my parents off, I feel like these are the beginning stages to foreshadowing what the rest of my childhood and into my teen years was gonna be like. I would say once I hit 11 or 12, that was when my parents' relationship really started to kind of get rocky, which is relevant to this. So on top of them arguing with each other, it was like they were battling each other on who was gonna be the better or more loved parent. My dad spent a lot of time, once he stopped whooping my ass and I hit the age where that wasn't gonna happen anymore, he spent more time like wanting to talk to me and trying to understand why I was doing or saying what I was doing. Now, it wasn't enough to where I would be like, this is gentle parenting, but it was definitely better than like the corporal punishment where we were at prior. When it came to my mom, she did the complete opposite. So instead of talking to me more, she would just tell me like, you love your dad more. I'm just the worst mother. You hate me. And she would put all these words into my mouth, which literally was not true. It's just, it was hard for me to show her the respect that she was asking for when she wasn't showing it to me as well. Once I hit 15, that's when it really got bad. That was really when she started kicking me out. I remember this one time she kicked me out and my dad came to pick me up. I was living in Alaska. It's like -degrees outside. I'm walking to my friend's house because I have nowhere else to sleep. He drives up and parks right by me in his truck and he's like, hey, you gotta get in, you gotta come home. And I'm like, well, mom kicked me out, sorry. And he was like, well, I grounded you and you're not allowed to leave the house when you're grounded. And so I think that was his way of like kind of trying to help me out. And there was always like little things like that that my dad would do to kind of show understanding without doing something so bad that it was going to instigate other problems in the house. So there was always this weird dynamic between everybody. Nobody was ever on the same page. Like once my parents split, that was really when both of them seemed to decide like, we don't want to be parents anymore. So no thanks. When I hit 16, when my parents fully split, that was when I really started to think like, I don't know if I can talk to these people anymore. I don't know if I can talk to my mom anymore. My dad I was still okay with, but my mom, like, it was starting to get to the point where I could not handle this anymore. It was getting extremely physical. There was a time where she'd slammed my head into a countertop and tried to pour Dawn dish soap down my throat, and I ended up like kicking her in the stomach and trying to run to my room, and she tripped me and then grabbed my feet. Like, it was stuff like that. Like, those kinds of things started escalating. Her drinking escalated, where I didn't feel like our house was a home. It felt like I had a roommate who was just constantly trying to beat me up and take out all of her negativity and all of her issues on me, because it was easier for her to blame me for all of her mistakes because I'm the one that ruined her life, than for her to look inward and like try and grow from whatever the fuck was going on. One really big reason that people don't want to cut their family off is because what comes with that is loneliness. am alone. I cut my mom off 4 years ago. I cut her off on my son's birthday and on Mother's Day. That was the last day that I spoke to her. And then I had cut my dad off a few years prior to that. One big worry that people have is that it's lonely. And it is lonely and it's hard. And that's another thing that people worry about is like, when you cut your family off, that's that. They don't exist. They do not exist. They are not a phone call away. They are not a drive down the road. They do not exist in a sense where it's like they're dead. And I hate saying that, but it's like I've mourned this relationship that I wish that I had with my mom. It's gone. I've done the mourning process. And at this point, like whatever else I have is to do in therapy. But another big thing is that it's really easy for them to guilt you into thinking that they're the victims. We live in a society where parents believe that kids should be giving blind obedience and that if there's an issue, then it had to have been the kids growing up because kids are the worst. When it comes to having kids and being no contact, I think my biggest worry and my biggest problem is that my kids have lost 2 grandparents. My kids do not have those grandparents. And that makes me really sad. I wish that my kids could grow up fishing and camping and having these fun activities and things that I did with my dad and my mom. But there were too many patterns from my childhood that were not good, that were starting to be repeated, and I just couldn't put that on my kids. And also because when I'm around people like that, especially my mom is a big influence on me. When I'm around her behavior and that behavior, it's too easy for me to get triggered back into it and to get re-riled up with her. We also just have different parenting styles. I don't even know if I had the option to have them around, if I would even want my kids like staying with them or going to those things without me, because we have such different parenting styles. I don't know if I would trust that. I don't know if they would have been open to learning and to listening. And I can't play the what if game, you know? The whataboutisms just don't matter. I had to do what I had to do to protect my kids, to protect myself. There needed to be boundaries set. There were boundaries set in the past. This wasn't like I randomly decided I'm done. This was years and years and years of boundary setting and trying to fix things and it just not working out. And so for the safety of my kids and for the safety of myself and for my husband, it needed to be done. We just needed to be done. One thing that I do get worried about sometimes is that maybe my kids are gonna wanna go no contact with me one day, and that does worry me. I'm worried that I'm gonna mess up, fuck up so badly that it will be worthy of being cut off. And so I will spend whatever time I need to, as long as I need to, putting in as much work as I need to, unlearning, unpacking, going to therapy, reading whatever books I can, listening to whatever people on the internet who are, professionally entrenched in this stuff. Whatever I need to do to unlearn and unpack. At the end of the day, my kids do not owe me anything. They do not owe me to take care of me as an old person, which I know that's why some people have kids, and that's so weird. That's weird behavior. They don't owe me their time. They don't owe me anything. I chose for them to be here, and it's my job to prepare them and get them ready to be adults and to love them and to do everything that I can for them. I try to keep them involved in the process to where if there's anything that I have done that really upsets them, I would like to know what it is, so I can see if it's a genuine problem that I am doing with my parenting, or if I've just hurt my feelings because I had to set a boundary or there needed to be a rule. I want it to be an open conversation. The best thing that I can do is just keep trying to learn and do whatever I can. And if that awful day comes, then I just know that I need to accept it and I'm not gonna play a victim. I hope the amount of accountability that I've learned to take and that I've accepted, understand, and know what my role is, especially in their life, I hope that that will help in the future to where they don't want to cut me off, but if I have done something to where it warrants that I will be able to just understand that they don't owe me their lives. And that feels really crappy to say, but it's true. Just like I don't owe my mom or my dad my life. For those of you that are wanting to go no contact or even low contact, I think my biggest piece of advice and even a warning is that it is hard and it is lonely. And if you are not mentally prepared to do things alone within your world, if you don't have a therapist or if you don't have a good support system, or if you don't have somebody to talk to, it makes it that much harder. And it's also one of those things where you need to continuously remind yourself, do you miss them? Or do you miss who you wish they were that you did not get? Because one of my biggest mistakes was continuously trying to go back to get that feeling where I was like loved and things were gonna be fixed. And those weren't my parents. What I wanted was not my parents. Once I hit about year 2, the end of year 2, hit about year 3, that's when it got easier. I know that's a long time, but this is one of those things where like time is what will help you heal. This will not be instant. There will be a lot of unpacking and unlearning to do. There is a lot of trauma involved behind why you would want to cut your parents off. And it's traumatic doing so. Like there will be a lot of time where you do not have family support. There were so many times when I was pregnant my last time where I wished I could cry and call my mom. And I couldn't, and it was lonely, and it sucked, and it was the worst. But I made it through, and so I know you can too. I know that there are certain things where if the house is on fire, maybe not the house, there are instances where something's on fire, and unfortunately, you cannot always walk around the fire. Like you have to feel those feelings. Okay, this is an analogy where your feelings are the fire, and you have to walk through it. You have to walk through the fire. You cannot walk around it. You have to feel those feelings. You have to feel sad. You have to feel angry. You have to cry. Like these are all natural emotions, and you have to fucking feel these things. But once you get through it and you are at the end, I'm telling you, it is so fucking worth it. It is so worth it to not feel stressed out and to not let your mental health dwindle because there is somebody just constantly berating and belittling you. And maybe that voice that's inside of your head that is repeating things that your mom used to say or your dad used to say or other grown-ups in your life, once you get through this, getting goosebumps, that little voice in your head won't be theirs anymore. It will be yours. It's really important to stay away from things that are harmful, and sometimes that includes your family. And it's okay to be done. So I'm gonna end it here, but if you have questions or comments, please leave them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time.